With Reckoning being announced as the final DLC for Mass Effect 3, it's about that time that I stopped playing this game, as well as commentaries for the motherfucker. Because after all, how long can I do commentary for a game that nobody pays attention to? So this will probably be one of my last commentaries that I do for the game. You know, I plan on doing a summation video for the motherfucker after this, you know, like a send-off of the game, since it deserves it. I mean, I played this shit so fucking long. But this video is about the Reckoning DLC, and it's a mashup of clips and shit with some of the new content that the game is releasing. You guys will see all that crap in the background. Now, with each DLC, I've had to give BioWare a piece of my mind, because in some cases they did very well, like the Earth DLC, and in other cases, they rolled out a pile of bullshit, like Rebellion and Retaliation, when they basically just hit the copy and paste button. And this DLC is gonna hear it in a few seconds. And again, before people go bitching about the price tag of this motherfucker, let's get it out the way. This is free DLC. 100% free. No money paid to play this bitch. And we got this shit a year after the release of the game. I mean, how many games, I think Battlefield 3 just did one, released DLC 1 year after the game has been released? That right there is some fucking value. But like I said in the other DLC videos, just because it's free doesn't mean it's perfect. I mean, after all, PlayStation Network is free, and look at how that's gone in the past 7 years. So let's start with the shit that was missing from the DLC. Like, no maps. What the fuck? All the prior DLC packs released some maps in some form or another, and this one didn't get shit. Because after all, playing the game one full fucking year, we just love playing on the same goddamn maps over and over and over again. Next, we got no Solarians. This is the one that burns most of the Mass Effect fans when it comes to the storyline. Solarians are one of the main races of the game, and in the 5 DLC packs, they didn't get a single character. But what hurts the most was the reasoning. Instead of BioWare just saying they couldn't think of anything useful or something unique or whatever the fuck, or they didn't want to recycle a character or whatever, they will do that shit anyway. They tell us they ran out of time. Ran out of time? Ran out of time? Motherfucker, you had a full year to release a Solarian. How the fuck did you run out of time? You didn't run out of time. You just never created one, you lazy fucks. You had the perfect opportunity during the Retaliation DLC, and you pissed that chance away. That DLC was filled with recycled characters and powers, and you could have just easily slipped in a Solarian into that group. But instead, you fucked up. That is some serious bullshit. Don't sit here and tell us you ran out of time. You lazy motherfuckers just didn't create it. That's the bottom line. Don't give us this bullshit, oh, I ran out of time. The fuck you think you're talking to, man? Now, also missing from this DLC was a new objective. We didn't get a new enemy or anything like that. So we got absolutely no new variety for flavor and whatnot. Plus, we didn't get any new challenges other than the basic DLC alien challenge that we got from all the other shit. So we got nothing. This DLC was very light on the quantity compared to some of the other DLC packs. You'd assume something this light on quantity would go big on the quality, right? You know how ugly chicks have no choice but to be good in bed because they don't have the looks to get by in life? Oh man, that's some gross shit. But listen, deep down you know that shit is 100% correct. Ugly chicks get the best head. There's no way around that shit. Anyway, what did we actually get in the Reckoning DLC? Well, we did receive 2 new pieces of equipment that are decent. I mean, somewhat useful in certain situations. We also received some more weapon mods, which are always nice. But in both cases, none of that content actually outclassed some of the other shit that we received in the fucking game. The big seller on this DLC, and this is where the quality is supposed to come in, are the 7 guns we received and the 6 completely unique characters. By unique, we're talking 6 completely new character models with brand new powers. Only the Earth DLC came up with 6 new characters like this. Even though I'm sure some of the Mass Effect 2 fanboys will say, well, some of the Earth armors were recycled from Mass Effect 2, or whatever, I don't give a shit. The shit looks new in this motherfucker, right? So basically, let's call that new fucking shit. Now, on the surface, the 7 guns we received are the most in any DLC to date. All the other DLCs, we received 3 new guns. That's it. But here, we received what appears to be 7 new guns. But my God, how looks can be deceiving. You ever heard of that saying? Good from far, but far from good? This is exactly what we got. Of the 7 guns, 4 of them came from single-player DLC packs. So they aren't new guns. They're completely recycled guns, which is fine in a way, because we expected we were going to get these shits in multiplayer anyway. So I was expecting to get these motherfuckers. Technically, we received only 3 new guns in this pack. Am I correct? Well, one of the guns was already in the campaign as a specialty weapon in 2 or 3 missions or some shit like that. I believe it's 2 missions or whatever the fuck. The other 2 guns that we got to finish out the 7 gun total are reskin models of guns we already have. So wait a minute. How the fuck did we just go from 7 new guns to 7 recycled guns? I mean, come on, BioWare. Why are you jerking us around like a fucking virgin cheerleader trying to keep her hymen intact? Of the guns, some are good, some are average, and some are completely crap. So let's dissect this shit, shall we? Now keep in mind, BioWare still rolls out balance changes, and they've already said that some of these guns are going to be changed from their original state. So some of them are probably going to get buffed, some might get nerfed, or whatever the fuck. I'm only talking about how the guns behave on day one of the DLC release. Now the first one is the Venom shotgun, and this one came from the single player DLC, and a matter of fact, this was an ass kicker in the fucking campaign. Holy shit. I basically used this gun during the Insanity run through that I did because the motherfucker is so badass. It launches out some exploding blue balls that multiply into more exploding blue balls. It pretty much kills everything in the campaign. This was expected to be an ultra rare because the ass kicking quality of this gun was so fucking high. Unfortunately, it was nerfed beyond belief. Yes, it was extremely overpowered in the campaign. We know that. But now it's fucking crap. They reduced the damage it does over the distance so that it acts like a shotgun instead of a noob tube. Because the fact is, a shotgun should be doing more damage up close. Am I correct? You should be able to shoot a motherfucker up close and do more damage. And then the further you go away, it should do less damage. The Venom shotgun didn't have that. It did the same damage whether you were up close or a mile away. The problem is the damage reduction is beyond absurd. Fucking thing does absolutely no damage at all, even when you're up close. These things are not exploding blue balls of death. It's more like pent up blue balls of frustration. Oh man, of all the guns released, this is the most disappointing one because of its ultra rare status. I mean, the fact that I used this shit in the campaign to get me behind the Insanity level is so fucking frustrating to see it be this goddamn bad. So this is one gun that desperately needs to be buffed. Next up is the Blood Pack Punisher, and this is an SMG that was supposed to be a heavy hitter. Well, I could probably throw it at enemies for more damage. Now, I get the point of it. The gun is meant to do damage to armor more than anything, so I should be using it against armored enemies. But against health, it does nothing. So thankfully, it's light that people can recharge their powers with full. But again, this is another lackluster gun. It does not deserve the ultra rare status that the gun already carries. I understand it does more damage to armor, and it does. If you shoot at a brood, you'll take that motherfucker down quick. But if you shoot at a cannibal, which is a lower level enemy, you take him out in the same goddamn time. It needs a serious buff to regular health. Granted, the armor damage is fine, but you have to buff the damage it does to health. Another disappointment is the Adastra or ADIS or ADAS. I don't know what the fuck they want to call this shit. They call it the ADIS, ADAS, Anti-Synthetic Rifle, AAS. That's whatever the kids want to call it. I call it a POS, piece of shit. Just like the Venom, in the campaign, it was a major asset that tore shit up. Here in multiplayer, it received the hardest nerfs of all the guns. They lowered the fire rate, they lowered the damage, and the only thing it works against now is barriers and shields. Now, BioWare's explanation is that speeding up the rate of fire would actually reduce the performance of the game. Whose performance? You programmed this shit, assholes. It was working perfectly fucking fine. How the hell did you come up with that lame excuse about performance when the damn thing fires shots slower than driving Miss Daisy, man? Come on. I get it. It does damage to barriers and shields, but against normal health, it doesn't do a fucking thing. It doesn't do headshot damage. Forget about armor. Don't even bother shooting at armor because it won't fucking do a goddamn thing. Can't cut armor for shit. And the fact that it's a projectile that it can't do headshots, you cannot kill a fucking Guardian with this motherfucker. Overall, this is a useless piece of garbage, and it is nowhere near the campaign counterpart. This gun was fucked beyond belief. I know they're not going to raise the rate of fire, which is the one thing that it really needs, but the damage has to get buffed. Oh my lord, does this thing need a damage buff, because you can't do headshots and you can't kill armor. This basically means you do not want to use this against any boss at all. The one decent import from the single player DLC though was the Executioner pistol. It's like a shotgun sniper rifle all wrapped into one. It only gets one shot, so you need to be accurate with the motherfucker. But hell, it got some recoil. That shit, oh lord, the recoil on that motherfucker. That shit kicks more than a 13-year-old choir boy giving his confessional to a pedophile priest. Yes, I went there because you know that shit is true, man. In any event, this is the top gun from the single player DLC packs. This was the only one that was decent from all the guns that transferred over from the single. And of course, the funny thing is, in the campaign, it wasn't better than the other three, but for some reason, the other three were nerfed so badly that this is now the one decent gun that you guys can use in multiplayer. Now, as previously mentioned, the Spitfire was in the campaign as a specialty weapon. Apparently, it should have fucking stayed there. Now, I know that BioWare has already announced that this is going to be a gun that's going to get a buff. So in the next balance change, it's going to probably do a lot more damage. But for now, it doesn't do shit. For such a heavy-ass weapon that literally slows you down, it doesn't do nearly as much damage as it could. Yes, it's meant to be given to the Geth Juggernaut, but this weapon needed some oomph in that ass. There is no question about that shit. So we'll see what the buff does. But for an ultra rare weapon, it was pretty underwhelming to say the least. The final two guns we received are actually pretty decent. Both are reskin models of already existing guns. We got the Suppressor, which is basically like the Carnifex model with a fucking silencer on it. That's all they fucking did. Even this was a lazy way out of making something unique. It does do quite a bit of damage because it has a triple damage headshot multiplier. Think about that shit. Shoot a motherfucker in the face, and they're gonna die 3 times as quickly. And it's a pretty light weapon, so it's excellent for any adept character. As long as you're shooting a motherfucker in the face, they're gonna die a whole shit lot quicker. The last gun that we received is the Lancer, and this is a reskinned Avenger. This is the prize jewel of the group, and well worth the ultra rare status that it has. Probably the only one worth the ultra rare status. It's not as powerful as the Harrier, but it does damage on par with the Harrier, and probably even more over time, because it doesn't use traditional ammo. It has replenishable ammo, like the Protean particle rifle, whatever the fuck that shit is. So thankfully, it's not as powerless as the Avenger, but it does some major damage over time, because unlike the Harrier, you don't need to run to the ammo box. Harrier goes through fucking ammo like crazy. This gun, all you need to do is stop shooting it, and it replenishes all its ammo and does some major ass kicking. Now, even though BioWare recycled guns, they at least didn't recycle too many character ideas. There is a bit of recycling, but we got 6 brand new character models with a few cool new powers that help kick ass and whatnot. First off, let's start with the big boy, the Geth Juggernaut.
Yeah, it's the Juggernaut, bitch! Yeah, Charles, I'll beat the shit out you. Get off me, bitch. Who the fuck are you? What the fuck is wrong with you? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
You get a motherfucker. I'm gonna whoop your ass.
Silly bitch, your weapons cannot harm me. Don't you know who the fuck I am? I'm the Juggernaut.
You know I had to do that shit, right? He's the only character we have that can't be sync-killed by bosses. Banshees can't pick me up, Phantom can't stab me, Victorian can't chew my head off, nothing. And he can get all up in their grill and use his heavy melee to replenish his shield. He's the ultimate tank character that this game didn't have. Yes, we had some other tank type characters in the game, but this is the original gangster. He does it the best out of every character we possibly have. The problem is that he's not a major damage dealer. He walks slower than an 80-year-old with a poop stuck in their ass cheeks, and he only has one powerful attack, which is that pulse seed shit. His turret and shield are mainly used for support, so they're not going to do some main damage, but he's about as valuable a character as you can have on Platinum, because he could just sit there and take all the abuse from the bosses and stay alive. But don't expect him to do too much damage. He's there to absorb damage. He's not there to deal it out. So you need people in a party with him to do the damage while he becomes the distraction. Next up, we have the Krogan Warlord, and you know this dude needs to come with his own theme song.
Stop. Have a time. Can't touch this. Can't touch this. Can't touch this.
Come on now, anybody over 30 knows that at some point they had or they wanted a pair of hammer pants. Anyways, this is our best representation of a Krogan yet. Big motherfucker with a ton of health and shield, and the most powerful melee attack, and most importantly, health regeneration. We haven't had a Krogan with health regen, and this is the first one that has the ability to regenerate his health like they do in the campaign. The problem that we have, and a number of people love pointing this shit out, is that he can be insta-killed. Unlike the Juggernaut, that can't be killed in one hit, this motherfucker can. And since his 2 main powers are melee oriented, guess what? It requires you to get up close, and this totally fucks his day up. Now, I've been picked up countless times by Banshees and Atlases when I'm not even fucking swinging at them, because he is so slow, and he needs to get to anything close to be able to do damage to fucking things. He is by far no boss killer. You need to keep this motherfucker away from any boss possible that has the ability to sync kill. He's great against any enemy that doesn't have a sync kill feature. His best enemy type is obviously the Geth, but if you get him anywhere near Banshee or anywhere near Praetorian, you better be prepared to get the shit stomped out of you. I mean, a Banshee will pick this motherfucker up and has picked me up plenty of times. That's the one flaw with the character. His melees pretty much eliminate him from playing on gold and platinum, because if he gets anywhere near a boss, they're gonna pick his ass up. Now, for anyone that's visited the BioWare forums and seen the stupidity on that site, you will notice that people constantly ask for Protean characters in multiplayer. Instead, we got a collector as a replacement. Basically, it's the same fucking thing. We got a big fucking bug. Now, I've seen people put up some amazing scores with him, but for some reason, I just can't do it. I don't know what it is, but I would blame the long cooldown that 2 of his power halves. You know, most adepts are power spammers, so for this guy to have such a long cooldown before explosions commence, it becomes a bit of a downer. Now, I can understand 1 really long power, but 2 makes him so much of a pain in the ass to use that I just can't use the motherfucker. You know, the Seeker Swarm shit is just like the Volus power, where you have that flying shit circling around your body and whatnot. So I guess some people must have figured out the trick or the pattern or something to using him, but I can't get the feel with this dude. It's just not working for me. I need at least 1 of those powers to have a much shorter cooldown to really fuck shit up. So if someone has some tips on how to use this motherfucker, I'm all ears, because all I do is finish in 2nd and 3rd place, and most of that damage just comes from Dark Channel, some stupid shit like that. So this dude, I like him. I just gotta figure out how to use the motherfucker. One of the most unique characters we received was the Turian Vanguard. Now, unlike the other 9 Vanguards, this one does not use Biotic Charge. Instead, she has Poison Strike, which works through a stream of enemies and poisons anything she hits in her path. She also has a grenade type power, she has some kind of biotic type boosting power, whatever the fuck, and then that Poison Strike melee crap. She's real versatile. Don't get me wrong, this is a very versatile character that has a ton of ways to attack people. But on the flip side, I'm not a fan of this Poison Strike shit, because after you hit a number of enemies, your back is turned to them. As soon as you warp through the motherfucker, your back is facing the enemy. And I learned the hard way that a Phantom can turn on you a lot faster than you can turn on her. I do like the concept of the power. I do like the concept of the character. But this isn't a mindless character like Jugs or Hammer Time, man. You really need to pay attention to your enemies and your surroundings before you go charging into a motherfucker. This certainly isn't a Nova Guard. This damn sure ain't no Krogan Vanguard before you go headfirst into action. So you really need to pick your spots wisely. You have to pay attention to using this character. I like it. I just wish that Poison Strike allowed me some kind of invincibility for a few seconds before a Phantom turns on my ass. The 5th character is basically what every DLC pack has had. A character that jackasses want nerfed because it's overpowered. Now we'll get into that in a second because we got the Alliance Infiltrator unit. From the campaign, people refer to her as Edie, EDI or whatever the fuck it is, which is what I'm going to refer to her as because it makes it so much easier. The idiots on the Bioware forum call her Sexbot or whatever the fuck they want to call her because that's what these fucking idiots do. She's the first infiltrator with shotgun damage in her tactical cloak. That's the first one. Every other one had a sniper rifle, and then we got an assault rifle amp one, we got a biotic power damage one, but this is the first one that actually has shotgun damage. She also has snap freeze, a damn good power to have that's incredibly useful. But the real bitching is over her repair matrix power. Aside from the major help it gives the character like speed boost, damage increase, decreased damage taken and whatnot, it allows the user to auto revive when they die. Now think about that. As soon as you die, you come back to life. Nobody needs to revive you. As soon as you hit the floor, you're right the fuck back up. Of course, the cunt bags over at the Bioware forum see this as overpowered. Oh, this makes her unstoppable. Oh, bad kids outscore me because the class is so good. Oh, shut the fuck up. That's what you should be doing. 1 year later, these fucktards are still complaining about motherfucking nerfs. Here's the reality. Who gives a shit? No, really, think about this. A bad kid has a perk that will revive them every time their stupid ass dies. That doesn't mean they're gonna use her, right? That doesn't mean you will become the greatest video game player ever to live. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit, man. The fact is, if you get stuck with an idiot, there's still gonna be an idiot after the game. But at least that idiot might actually stay alive a little longer. You won't always have to revive them. You won't always be a man down all around since they might be able to revive themselves a couple of times. Yes, they're gonna die plenty of times. Yes, they'll probably get insta-killed a few fucking times. But if they didn't have that character, what would be the difference? If someone is bad at this game, this class will not make them better. It will just keep them reviving over and over in this non-stop loop of death, and that's all they will be. A bad kid that keeps dying. And to be honest, I don't care if a bad kid keeps reviving himself because I don't have to fucking do it. Look, I've benefited from the auto-revive a few times. Not many, but look, let's face it, we all die sometimes. I take deaths that are unfair because of lag or whatever fucking reason, so it saves a teammate from reviving me every now and then. I don't fucking give a shit. But someone dying repeatedly isn't exactly using the character to its fullest potential. If the goal of the person is to repeatedly die and be revived by the repair matrix, they're obviously not playing the class right to begin with. It's no different than a Vanguard charging headfirst into every single battle, or a Krogan trying to melee sync kill enemies. It's just another idiot you have in the room, but at the very least, this is an idiot you will not have to keep going back and reviving. If he revives himself, hey, he might actually do a little bit of damage before he fucking dies again. Big fucking deal. At the end of the day, good players will use the repair matrix to buff themselves and beat enemies. Bad people will use it as the crutch to play difficulties they shouldn't be in. And they can keep reviving themselves all they fucking want, but it's better than having to pick someone up all the damn time than constantly playing a man down every single fucking round. BioWare's already announced they're gonna nerf the power. I really don't give a shit. I already know they're not gonna patch that shit where it has auto-revive. That's always gonna be there. So let these badass kids use it. As soon as they die, kick them out of the fucking room. It's that goddamn simple. The final character I've saved for last is the one that most people are pulling their hair out over. The Talon Merc. My god, this guy is fucked. Never mind how to build him, man. This son of a bitch has so many bugs and glitches, it's not even funny. First of all, when you unlocked him, he was missing points to add to his powers. He came up 2 points short, and you needed to reset your game or reboot your game to get those 2 extra points. Then, once you get him in game, his arrows cause all kinds of issues, such as getting locked onto a target, not firing when you release the trigger, and I believe the PC players, they're seeing their buttons get all fucked up when they use them, something's not mapping or whatever the fuck, and there's no patch in sight to fix this bullshit. That's just the bugs. I haven't even gotten into the actual character yet. He has one good power, Cane Mines. Holy shit, these things are fucking powerful. That's if an enemy trips these bitches. As soon as they trip them, they're fucking dead. But there's another bug, tripping these shits. And you guys will even see it in these clips. I placed the fucking thing down only for enemies to walk right through the shit without triggering an explosion. It's fucking irritating. My one decent power is rendered useless because the collision detection doesn't notice that an enemy just went through the motherfucker. And sure enough, I fire out of mine, and guess what? I get no goddamn kill. The next problem is that his 2 arrow powers have their damage increased through melee damage. Yes, I will say that again. To make his 2 arrows more powerful, you will need to increase all his melee damage, as arrows are considered melees. Holy motherfucking shit, are you kidding me? The only way his arrows do any damage, any sort of viable damage, is to have all kinds of melee increases to make these shits powerful. Here's the problem. On top of having to load out your melee damage, instead of health, or the passive powers that make your offense better, you also need to use equipment to increase his 2 powers, like sacrificing weapon damage. You need to use a melee mod to increase the damage of the arrows. You also need to lock onto a target to shoot them with an arrow. And in a lot of cases, especially on the higher levels, you're going to expose yourself to the enemy. In other words, you're going to take a shitload more damage and potentially die. This is a horrible character design. Why do I need to increase all of my melee damage for 2 powers? Why do I have to sacrifice weapon attachments for these powers and equipment and amps and all that bullshit? Yes, I can certainly skip the melee damage and shit. I could just use the cane mines and shoot motherfuckers with a very overpowered gun. But it leaves you with only 1 power and 2 useless powers that don't do any damage if they're not spec'd properly. I know that BioWare was trying to be unique, but just because you're unique doesn't mean you're useful. This is the definition of being useless. A buggy, glitched character with awful powers that requires huge investments in melee, sacrificing your health, sacrificing weapon damage, all for 2 arrow powers that are absolutely meaningless. The idea of this character could have worked if they mapped his powers out just a little bit better. Instead of melee damage increasing his arrow powers, it should have been from everywhere else in that 4th offensive power, that passive power that increases all your damage, all your weapon damage, all your power damage. Had you put the arrow damage in there, we wouldn't be having this fucking problem with this goddamn character. This is one BioWare fucked up on big time, and the fact is they're not rolling out any more patches, so this buggy shit is going to remain in the game forever and ever. It will never change. This is a character to avoid at all costs, unless you're playing him on bronze and silver. Anyway, this was one long ass rant video on the final DLC. I will say this, of all the DLC packs that we received, this is by far the most disappointing. And it's the most disappointing from 2 ends. One, we didn't get enough quantity. There's just not enough in this DLC. Yes, it is free, I understand that, but when you compare this to all the other prior DLCs, it seems like right after Earth, they basically quit. Right after Earth and Retaliation, everybody said, okay, fuck it, it's on to the next game. This pack doesn't have enough quantity, and although the quality is pretty decent, when you look at some of the brand new characters that they rolled out, we got 7 reskinned, remapped, reworked guns, so basically those are all recycled products. We have 1 glitchy as shit character, and another character that people are bitching about because, oh, she's overpowered and all this, oh, fuck this bullshit. The fact is, I was very disappointed with this DLC, especially if this is your last DLC. I mean, if you're gonna go out, you go out with a bang. You know what I'm talking about? You don't just go out with a whimper. You want to go out and fuck shit up. This one just basically mailed it in. BioWare saying we're going to work on the next game. Very disappointed with Reckoning. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm probably going to be leaving Mass Effect 3 very soon so I can start playing some other games. Anyway, as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit. And like I said, I'm going to have one more video coming up, which is going to be a complete summary of my Mass Effect 3 experience ever since I started playing this motherfucker 1 year ago.